In the world of crime, the rules are simple. Trust no one, take what you can, and if you're lucky, make it out alive. Welcome to another no-holds-barred episode of 31 on 31, and this month we're crossing the yellow tape and diving headfirst into a cinematic underworld where the only constant is chaos. We're bringing together 31 films where crime doesn't just pay, it defines the story. From the bulletproof family ties of the Godfather Trilogy to the ruthless street justice of Training Day, from the ice-cold precision of Heat to the explosive swagger of Snatch and Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels.
Every film in this list breaks something. A law, a code, or someone's nose.
These films walk the razor's edge between justice and survival, loyalty and betrayal, order and absolute anarchy. Whether it's mob bosses or maverick cops, cartel hitmen or blue-collar thieves, the one thing these stories have in common, nobody plays clean. Laws get bent, morals get blurred, and every choice comes with a body count.
Don't be surprised if you see the same faces popping up again and again. This list is so stacked, you'll start to see why certain actors are basically the face of the genre. There are guys in here who play the good guy, the bad guy, and sometimes just the old guy.
So grab your burner phone, keep your crew tight, and double-check the getaway plan, because this month we're ranking 31 movies where the only real rule is, don't get caught. This is 31 on 31, Law and Disorder. Let the countdown begin.
Hello one and all, welcome back to another edition of 31 on 31. These half-year ones, otherwise known as the May edition of 31 on 31, are getting a hell of a lot more sticky. 2 years ago, it was Creatures of the Night, which featured vampires and werewolves. Just last year, the very contentious edition of comedy. And now this year, a relatively stacked 31 crime-related films. The subtitle is Law and Disorder. I'm not kidding when I tell you that at least half of these movies are probably in my top 100. All 31 of these movies are very good. I think the 31st film on this list is still 3.5 stars for me, so you really can't go wrong. But much like last year, where you had 31 great comedies, there was no pleasing everyone. That was quite clear. So I can't wait to see how this goes over. Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Charles, otherwise known as Sipo. This is the WILIscredia entry into the Autopstream May 2025 ranking. We have a little bit of a roster change here for this edition. Sean Chandler isn't taking part this time, so it's quite unfortunate he misses out on the longest set of movies we've ever done. But I think he took a break at the wrong time, because he's missing out on multiple movies that have family love storylines. Most recently, Brian announced that he's not taking part in the October rankings, but he will be joining us this time. He says that the horror movies are kind of too much for him and he can't handle all the dismal nature of them. But the truth is, he's just got a new gig. Those of you in the UK will recognize his voice.
What a load of malarkey. Less malarkey, more smarty. Search Smarty Mobile.
So Brian blames it on horror, but he's actually off doing him. With Sean gone, have you ever wondered what it would be like to have a slightly more negative, yet equally pretty white guy with the exact same hairdo would be like? Like a little bit grumpier variant of Sean? Well, we have it this time. Adam from Adam Does Movies is that guy, with slightly less forearms in the thumbnails. Luckily, Brian is still here, so he can give Adam the rundown on how I feel about comedy.
I've been a stand-up comedian comedy card, so I know everything about comedy.
If you go watch his Twilight roast video, that's not what the word roast means, Adam. And last year, the In Bruges joke kind of ran away, and I'm definitely responsible for some of it. But this year, not to be outdone, we have a bunch of like-minded movies and one. Apparently, Cody thinks that after-school clubs dressed like members of KISS, but baseball is a gangster movie. I'll never forget him asking in the chat if Warriors counts as a gangster movie.
And then everyone at the same time texts, yes, Cody.
I kid. In case you need to hear me say that I'm kidding. He knows I'm kidding. Let that not get run away with. Seriously, these are incredible movies. I'll spoil it right now. Warriors, as much as it's fine. There's like 12 5-star movies or 4.5-star movies here, so whatever. We're covering a number of movies, and depending on who you are and where you lie, their weaker counterpart. There's The Godfather and Goodfellas, Heat and The Town, Scarface and Carlito's Way, oddly enough, both starring Al Pacino. And if you're a fan of valuables in suitcases, you have No Country for Old Men and True Romance. Without further ado, Law and Disorder, 31 on 31. So before I get to the list proper, just a quick reminder, it really helps if you leave a thumbs up, comment, let us know down below where something would be for you if you disagree, or if you agree, that's fine. Just letting me know you're here and to keep doing these things and throw some zhuzh, it helps. Or share it with someone who is unaware of this long-running ranking series. I hate doing this stuff, but I need it. I'll try not to bring it up again, but this is your call to action. Thank you. Number 31 is New Jack City. There was going to have to be one movie that was number 31. I'm sorry, I don't know how to break this to you.
Shit! I've been cut already?
I recall enjoying this a heck of a lot more as I was younger, and I haven't seen it in a while. And I guess I'm just more snooty and still white. This movie doesn't look great to me. It's still a 3.5 star film for me, don't get me wrong. In this company, I think it doesn't match up well. And a lot of the camera work, there are times where this feels like an exotic TV movie. And for as much as Wesley Snipes really came into his own, it's still a little rough around the edges. And I'm still seeing Willie Mays Hayes here. And most of, if not all of these movies have some sort of iconic moment in it. Chris Rock still has not gained weight from this film. The imagery of Chris Rock at his lows in this movie, they stick out quite a bit. But considering the other urban films on this list, I think this is the least strong. It doesn't really hit emotions quite as well. Like the raw nature of it is just a tad unbelievable as well. Some things aren't fleshed out right. It does feel like, I don't know, if NYPD Blue were to get an R-rated episode. I think they did have R-rated episodes at a certain point, but whatever. Number 30, Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado, Skedaddle. As much as I love Sicario, Sicario 2 probably didn't need to be made. There's not much to talk about with this movie. I will say in the last year or so, the highly ranked Alien Romulus last October featured an actress who probably was the best looking scared face there was, and that's Isabella Merced, who also is currently in the second season of The Last of Us, and not as big a role in this film, but it's interesting to notice in the last year or so, Isabella Merced has kind of risen up to my actress to look out for, as much as this movie just doesn't live up to the first one, which is saying a lot. Because Sicario is a very good movie. Sicario 2, it has moments. I just feel like it doesn't really meet the standards that the first film set out. It's interesting, there are a bunch of people on this list that, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, those are heavy names that appear often on this list. But Josh Brolin appears a couple of times on this list, at least 3. That's fascinating to me. I don't know why it's fascinating, but as much as you think of the Italian guys in all of these lists, there's quite a bit. Number 29, Godfather Part 3. Sean, you picked a hell of a time to not participate. There's the cousin storyline that is just begging for Sean to give his input on this. I don't know which one is in my box set, but that's the one I watched. From what I understand, the Coda edition is a bit more trimmed down, a bit less of Sofia Coppola. Once again, like a bunch of other sequels on this list, it's fine by any other measure, but within the franchises they're in, doesn't really match up too much. Another movie that has a bunch of lines in it that is quotable.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
But it doesn't strike the same chord that the first 2 films does. And once again, that's not saying much at all. It's just, in another 31, Godfather 3 would probably be in the top half, but this is a very stacked list. Number 28, A Bronx Tale, another movie that I saw quite a bit in my teenage years and young adulthood. I seem to recall enjoying it more then, and the theme of this ranking is amongst these films, it doesn't quite match up. I'm guessing that maybe someone else in the group thinks completely differently, and that's what's awesome about these rankings, the different perspectives. But as far as the test of time and what I'm looking for versus what nostalgia is doing for me, Bronx Tale, it's okay. Yet again, if we were having this against, I don't know, other movies with Chaz Palminteri, it might be a different story or something. The nostalgia I have for this movie isn't nearly as strong as me watching it as an adult, but it's got heavy competition. Number 27, Warriors, a fun movie, something of a fast food type movie that, I don't expect too much from it. It's quick, it's in, it's out, and it's done. I guess I have the director's cut where they intertwined like comic book transition things in it. And I know I don't remember that from the movie. It's kind of jarring on the Blu-ray. So I'm not ranking the recent edition that I watched because, or maybe I am. Maybe it left a sour taste in my mouth because I seem to recall it being a little bit longer, breathing a little bit more. And I don't know how long it takes someone to take a subway from the Bronx to Brooklyn, but we'll suspend that disbelief. It's fine. It's another movie that you really have to divorce reality and suspend disbelief. I would love to see something like Warriors played today a bit more, I don't know, straight. Not have people dressed like baseball players who also are in Kiss. The uniform thing, I think you could scale that back. Listen, I get it. For the 70s, it was creative. It was a way of differentiating who was on what side and all that. I think with real life gangs, you can have something where like a colored bandana means everything. And it's a bit more scaled back. It's a bit less dramatic. It's an interesting play on the old Greek mythology. Let me say it again. Don't let the numbers fool you. All of these movies are a good time to me. It just happens to be in a list where half of these are like platinum grade for me. This was a very, very hard list. Comment down below. Let me know how pissed off you are. Number 26, Boyz in the Hood. I don't know if this is incredibly offensive for me to say this, but my favorite John Singleton movie from this era that kind of deals with similar topics is Higher Learning. Again, I thought that I enjoyed this movie or thought a bit more fondly of this movie, watching it as a kid and in high school and all that shit. But for some reason, the melodramatics are a bit more transparent.
I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. I can't help you out of this one, Jim.
I hate to compare it to stuff that isn't on this list, but Higher Learning is a bit more, it's equally melodramatic and a bit silly and deals with race issues, and there's no way I can talk about this. So, well, there's white people in Higher Learning, so I feel a little bit more comfortable. Although now that I think about it, the white guy, not a friendly white guy in that movie, but I feel like Boyz in the Hood, while being the counter to something like New Jack City, I think that in another director's hands, it might be a little bit more refined, a little bit more subtle. I feel like John Singleton, it would have been interesting to see him do this maybe 10 years later, and or with a bigger budget. You have fantastic performances though. Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, like I don't know why he's not in much more stuff. Another thing that has tainted all of these movies for me is Don't Be a Menace to Society While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. It's strange that I feel like the satire comedy hits some of the harder stuff while also being funny. I enjoy this movie, but I think my nostalgia goggles are a little bit thick for this. And watching it back, although I haven't seen Higher Learning recently, so maybe I thought things were a lot, tough, harder edged when I was a kid. But it's not to say in another list, this would be very strong. I would much rather watch Boyz in the Hood than Sicario 2. At least Boyz in the Hood, there's quotes and lines to regurgitate at inappropriate times. Sicario 2, I already have forgotten it. One of the movies that has fallen very hard in my pre-list ranking to my post-watch ranking is number 25, The Untouchables. I don't know, maybe I'm just watching some of the stuff from the 80s and 90s, and it isn't playing the same for me. A lot of the music in The Untouchables feels a bit over the top. It doesn't really match the tone for me. Sean Connery, as much as I love him in this film, a lot of it doesn't work against what's actually happening in this movie. Everything takes way too long there in that third act. It's laughable how long a stroller takes to fall downstairs. And I know it was done for dramatic effect, and I'm sure of its time, it was quite tense, entertaining. But, knowing it's coming and I don't know, maybe knowing that I have another 30 movies, of which half of them are like at least 3 hours long, maybe that soured me to the idea of just watching a stroller roll downstairs in super, super slow motion. It's fine. It's just a little funky. Kevin Costner, unless he's in a baseball movie, I could see someone else in that role. I could say that for a lot of Kevin Costner roles. Number 24, this is a first-time watch for me. LA Confidential, another movie that the tone doesn't really match for me. I think part of it is watching a 90s movie in 2025 that takes place in the 50s. I can't help but compare this to something like Chinatown, and I would much rather watch Chinatown every time. It could just be a thing that I was late to the party on this. I enjoyed it. I just feel like it's a bit, I don't want to say hokey because I don't mean hokey. I really need to, someone invest in getting me a thesaurus because there's words that I want to say, but all I have is my limited vocabulary. I think maybe I need to rewatch it understanding that it's going for this noir 50s type thing. And I just wasn't prepared for that. To be honest, I don't know what it was I was prepared for. The problem is both Cody and Brian, I think one of them is going to have it relatively high, if not at the top. It's one of those cases where I don't know if any movie would have matched that sort of hype, because I don't think I've ever seen a trailer. I don't think I've seen footage or anything for this, but it's fine. I don't know. The tone's a little hokey. Let me know how disappointed you are. Number 23, Once Upon a Time in America. Whew, this is long. Speaking of tonally confusing, I don't know, if this movie were 2 films and chopped up a bit, it might be a bit more easy to go down, but the struggle snuggle stuff wasn't played very well for me. I don't know if it affects the score that much.
It's me.
But I didn't expect Irreversible in this list. And tonally, it's confusing. It's a very long movie. The makeup in this film is spectacular. I keep forgetting that, makeup existed for a very long time. And then when I get reminded of just how good it was, a 50-year-old movie looking fantastic, it's like, oh, yeah, you don't need computers for everything. Look at that. It just feels like a longer, more saturated version of The Godfather and The Godfather 2. Clearly, you know what I would choose. Again, these are at least 3.5-star movies for me from here out. So it's good. It's just, it doesn't match well to excellent. Number 22, History of Violence. Now, a Cronenberg movie that, I don't know, I'm not scarred thinking about it. I've only seen once prior to this list. It's like a soft first time watch, but as much as I knew what was happening, the tension of the last third still plays well. And Viggo Mortensen and Ed Harris, I don't see enough of them to really consider just how strong they are at acting, but feeding off of each other. Man, Ed Harris, when I think of him like in something like The Rock, and that's a bit more overt and a bit more, I don't know. It's an action movie. He's a great villain in that, but man, he's like really a badass character in this movie. And the 2/3 of this movie, you're thinking that, is there some sort of confusion here? What's going on? Like, why is this still happening? It was pretty clearly self-defense. Those guys were being dicks. How do they, and sure enough, the last 15 minutes or so, for as much as I kind of figured that's the only way for the film to go in, I still was kind of shocked. Even though I knew where it was going. Again, my apologies to Mr. David Cronenberg. You can do movies that just don't feature videotapes and stomachs and heads blowing up, and there's none of that I can think of in this, and this was quite an enjoyable ride for me. Number 21 is Carlito's Way.
Wait a second, Charlie. I work hard here.
We're going to start crossing these barriers here where there are the slightly more fast foody versions of some classics. And Carlito's Way is Scarface light. And Al Pacino seems to play a lot of different backgrounded people in just this list.
You think you're big time? You're gonna fucking die big time!
It's perfectly enjoyable. It's this like sweet spot movie. The greats aren't fantastic and the bads aren't horrible. And I can't help but see Brian Lomax when I see Sean Penn's character in this movie.
Fuck you and your Your self-righteous code of the goddamn street.
Whatever that's worth. Number 20, Menace to Society. So the Urban Trilogy is complete.
The term they use is the urban market. Now, the urban market once stole my TV, so I know they like movies.
In my opinion, this is the grittiest of the movies that are featured in, I was going to say LA, but New Jack City is New York. It covers things that Boyz n the Hood does with a bit more grit. I think Brian said this privately, and I'm pretty sure he's going to say it in his ranking, that it's just a miserable movie. I agree with that. It's a bit more realistic and not so, again, I don't know what word I want to use, but I keep thinking of the word like melodramatic. Boyz n the Hood has hope laced into it, where Menace to Society has that theme, that underlying subtext of you're born into this and it's hard to escape it. It's interesting because I guess we'll get to this during the debrief, but the grandparent character does his best to guide his grandson and his friend to, use religion as a guidance. And I would have figured that type of messaging would have been perfect for something like Brian. Like, to me, it felt like the message of ignoring his grandfather was, look to faith to get out of this dead end, this situation that you have in front of you. And because he doesn't do that, he ends up with a bit of a messed up ending. None of these are really happy, mind you, but the fact that Menace to Society basically says lifestyle in these types of environments doesn't last very long. I forgot that the MILF love interest in this movie was none other than Jada Pinkett.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
I'm going to, okay?
It's brutal, it's gritty, it's dark, but I would say it's strong and quite well done. Not much meat on the bones, but powerful stuff. I'm oddly confused. Brian, why didn't that work for you? Hey, and speaking of Brian, I don't know what happened when we were putting this list together, but somehow we're doing 3 Guy Ritchie movies. 19 is Snatch. Quite enjoy the Guy Ritchie stuff. The more time I spend in the UK, the more I think I'm getting some of the little bits and bobs. There's different accents all over the place, and Snatch fully exploits that. And this is a fun time. This is probably the most fun of the Guy Ritchie movies that we cover here. Actually, no, I think I'm wrong. I think I laughed out loud most consistently during Snatch. But this is a similar through line, a bit more money, a bit more gloss on the screen. British gangster movies feel a bit more like heisty stuff, which that could just be Guy Ritchie stuff, but it's hard. I'm like so New York programmed into what a mob movie is. And yes, gangster movie, we're covering crime and both sides of it. It's hard to realize that there's not this La Cosa Nostra thing. And having to sit through 3 Guy Ritchie movies, it kind of got me to understand that, yeah, you can be a group of organized crime without having to be Italian and, cut your hand and all that Soprano shit. This is fun. It's just 3rd on this list as far as Guy Ritchie stuff is concerned. Number 18 is Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. This is a movie that I feel like, with a bit more money, there are 2 movies so far. I feel like Boyz n the Hood and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. If you put a bunch of extra money, get the same directors, unfortunately that's not possible with one. But if you were to do some sort of like funny games thing, I'm really intrigued to see what would be done with a bit more room, a bit more money to play with for something like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. This is probably the quickest, the sharpest witted of the Guy Ritchie movies. It just feels like it's hindered by its budget or lack thereof. It's not a hindrance or anything. It's just, if you imagine Quentin Tarantino doing Reservoir Dogs with his Django Unchained budget, can you imagine like how much better that would be? It's just kind of the same case for this. I rather enjoy Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. We're getting to the middle here. We're getting to the very difficult portion of this list for me. Number 17, No Country for Old Men. Halfway through this movie, I was thinking we probably could have had Blood Simple and or Fargo on this list. But no, we have to have Kiss in baseball uniforms and the Guy Ritchie trilogy here. This is probably my least favorite of... If we were to have Fargo, Blood Simple, and No Country for Old Men, this would probably be my least favorite choice. But man, it's gritty. This movie is the first time I've heard someone else use the term in the jackpot as like a bad situation. I've only thought of it as that baseball argument from a couple of years ago.
Our ass is in the jackpot. We don't do something there. I'm just telling you that.
But no, a cab driver in No Country for Old Men says, I'm in the jackpot. And he said it in a way that says that he's in trouble. So I don't know, whatever that's worth. This movie is like the tonal opposite of something like Fargo, where there isn't music to save anything. It's really kind of dim and dark. There are these encounters that feel like manufactured tension. Like, I don't know, I almost feel like if there was music in the background, it might make it less serious. But for some reason, it fits in this movie. I want to talk about dismal. This movie is dismal. There's a lot of dismal movies on this list, actually. I don't really have complaints. It goes to tell you if we had Blood Simple and or Fargo on this list, how much higher they could be. Man, we really put one together this time, huh? Number 16, Copland. When you think of mob movies, do you think of Sylvester Stallone? I don't either, but this is more crime-based and organized crime from the people that are supposed to be taking care of the criminals. Decent movie. It's got all of the players from either Sopranos or mob movies from the 90s. It's like chicken soup for me. I understand, I realize it's not quite as strong as something like Godfather or Goodfellas or any of those movies. Every single character that has a decent sized part in this movie just knocks it out of the park. Copland is yet another movie that there's a ton of stuff that you'll hear any one of us re-quoting lines from it. I think Cody has the "you blew it" line on his soundboard. It's another movie where the ceiling isn't too high, but the floor is nowhere too low either. It's a really good time. It's just a very comfortable 4-star movie for me. And I'm fine with that. It's something that I don't mind watching. I don't need to get myself prepared for. You watch this, you're in, you're out. A little melodramatic with the slow motion in the end there. Ray Liotta, whether or not he's on La Coca Loca is for discussion, but the ending of Copland isn't quite as egregious as The Untouchables. Number 15, American Gangster. Hey, remember when Ridley Scott can make really, really, really good movies? Me neither, but shit, I don't know what's more impressive, the fact that these movies are so great or they're somehow inspired by real life. And by that, I'm being quite loose with that terminology. A lot of these movies, they're inspired by real life and, there's a Venn diagram of sorts, but this movie checks a couple of boxes. It's got the mob thing, the drug thing, the corrupt cop thing, and it's Denzel. I'm extremely pleased that we got a couple of Denzel Washington movies and some of his best performances on this list. But this is right about the ceiling for me. The next couple of movies could all be a number one tie for me. Number 14, The Irishman. This is my least favorite Marty Scorsese movie that's on this list, obviously, which isn't saying a thing. You don't realize how spoiled we are with certain actors' performances till you realize we didn't have Joe Pesci for like 20 years prior to this movie. And when everything pops off, you have Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro in the same movie, and they're all old. Look at them. They're too old. It's a bunch of 75-year-old, 80-year-old actors doing a Marty Scorsese movie that, isn't fueled by La Coca Loca. Could be a little bit shorter. I don't know if it's the actors. I don't know if it's Marty Scorsese. There's just a little bit off the fastball, if you will. Maybe a little bit off the 8 ball. Did I say it could be shorter? Number 13 is The Gentleman. I've watched it a couple of times over the years, and I have yet to catch up with the Netflix series. But I remember thinking it was too flashy, too comedic, too, flat. And by that, I mean cinematography. But letting it sit with me and watching it another time, and again recently, it's Guy Ritchie with money and the ability to do things with actors that are very qualified and quite proficient. It's snappy, it's funny. I guess I was just in the wrong mood, or maybe watched it too late right before bed or something, but oddly enough is probably my go-to Guy Ritchie movie that isn't Sherlock Holmes. Don't sleep on Sherlock Holmes. I quite enjoy that film. Some of the best movies on this list they work as thrillers, yet they are still very darkly funny. I don't know if The Gentleman is so much darkly funny as, overtly funny. It's in that top layer, like the YouTubers thing. Funny. It balances quite well. And I think I slept on that a little bit. Number 12 is Sicario. Yeah, we're at the point now where in different types of lists, these movies would be number one somewhere else. And Sicario is that. If you were to just take that border crossing scene, that moment alone is, 10 stars out of 5. The tension in that scene is incredible. And I don't know if that overshadows things for me. I feel like, oddly enough, for as strong as this movie is, the third act does not compare, does not meet up to the tension that was built in the border crossing scene. That is just incredible. This is the film that Roger Deakins finally won an Oscar for, and it's well deserved. Again, the tension in the middle is quite worth it. It just doesn't meet that for the last third, which is something of a letdown. But again, this is a number one movie on other lists for me, so this is a really tough list. With that said, number 11, Heat. Yeah, I'm in the minority, and I realize that, without films like Heat, we wouldn't have other things that it influenced. It's still great. It's odd that up until The Irishman, we only had Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in a diner for like a minute of film. Like that was their standoff for all of those years after being in The Godfathers and being respective film icons. I think the iconic nature of the actors, I don't know if it's just me or like how I feel about everyone else in their interpretation of Heat and how it stands up against other heist movies, but it's brilliant. I love it. Great time, but it's not my favorite heist movie on this list. Brian is going to kill me. Top 10. You really can't go wrong. If you're telling me that, hey, Sipo, why do you have this at number 10? Why do you have this at number 12? This is my number 1. I get it. It's fine. We have to do this way. It's like Sophie's Choice times 25. Shit, I'll say 31. Fuck it. I'll include Warriors in this Sophie's Choice list. But number 10 is Training Day. I keep saying another movie that, I quote a lot. But for those of you who don't know, when I say shit pushed in, it is from Training Day. That scene at the table with the shit pushed in. There's a bunch of quotes in this movie that I use a bit too much now that I think about it. Actually, this entire list, like if you want my silly vocabulary of things that I quote or have on a soundboard, this 31 is probably the best way to represent that. Oh yeah, the movie. I don't know what I felt about this movie in the past, but it's kind of grown on me. Denzel Washington, yeah, he's a really good actor. I don't know if this is news to anyone, but Denzel Washington does a fantastic job. I like him as a bad guy as much as I like Philip Seymour Hoffman as something of a pathetic character. Denzel Washington as a morally ambiguous bad guy, not so much by the end of this movie. He's really good at it. And this movie is so gritty, so fantastic. And the older I get, I don't know why age has something to do with my rankings, but this sounds weird saying this. I wish there was a sequel to it. And I don't know why. I don't know what you would do with this intellectual property moving forward. But man, to just have something like it moving forward would have been interesting. I mean, we've had Godfather sequels. We had Sicario sequels. Why couldn't we get a Training Day sequel? These movies at the top, it's going to be hard for me to talk about because a lot of them are like no notes. What else do you want me to add to this? But great time. I'll watch it every day and twice on Sunday. Which brings me to number 9, The Godfather. I know there's a handful of you out there that probably wouldn't think of a number lower than 3 when you're thinking of The Godfather. This is a stacked list. I quite enjoy The Godfather. I appreciate what it's done for us. But even watching it in 4K, the color palette still, I've watched it as pretty a picture as you could see it in. I'm going blind in case you couldn't tell by my glasses. I appreciate the cinematography quite a bit, but I do feel like this movie could be a little bit shorter. I don't know what other things I could say about this to help you understand why this is number 9 for me.
I did not care for The Godfather. It insists upon itself, Lois.
John Cazale Fredo doesn't really get to perform yet in this franchise, and he's probably my favorite character from the Godfather franchise. There's so many things that this movie is responsible for. You want a little mini school lesson? This is where the color orange and the fruit orange has to do with death. Spoiler. Number 8, The Town. Yeah, so this is my go-to as far as thriller heist movie that isn't focusing on fun, because Point Break would be in the conversation. But Ben Affleck, for that stretch in the early 2010s when he was directing stuff, I don't think he could miss. And this movie is brilliant. Yes, I get it. We wouldn't have this without Heat. It tributes Heat. There's a bunch of things that are Heat light, I guess some people say, but maybe it's just the Northeastern American in me, where if you have something in Philly, Jersey, New York, Boston, I have a little bit more respect for it because I don't know, it feels homegrown or something. Something that kind of caught me off guard in the rewatch is Blake Lively, underrated performance in this movie. For as much as, for those who don't know, I just watched Another Simple Favor, which stars Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick cannot escape that, whatever that role is that she does. And I was trying to think of Blake Lively in other things that, you know, maybe they're both typecast, but Blake Lively's character in The Town is awesome. It's actually kind of shocking that she didn't get more serious work moving forward after this, or stuff that I haven't, been aware of or noticed. She plays straight well. It's not like there was too much comedy in this. There's a bunch of laugh lines in this that are quite dark, but Blake Lively, her character is tragic, and I really, really enjoyed that performance. On top of everyone else here, if you're doing pound for pound, I'll take The Town every time over Heat. And I realize that's an unpopular opinion, but a lot of quotable things here. That might be the deal breaker for me. If I have a lot of quotable lines, it's going higher on my list. Speaking of a lot of quotable lines, number 7 is Scarface. There is a lot of stuff that gets re-quoted here by me, and hopefully I'll be able to play at least one clip there. It's a great movie. I cannot remember the original 1932 version, which I really should. I've been told by numerous people that the original is the far superior film. I have a good time going back to the 1982 version. Again, quotability means something to me. This town's just a big pussy waiting to get fucked. Like, flawless. Flawless. Number 6, True Romance, a Tarantino-written film directed by Tony Scott. And to give you a quick suggestion, if you want like an amalgamation of this list in a film that isn't in this list, may I suggest The Fan, which stars Wesley Snipes, Robert De Niro, and is directed by Tony Scott. And Benicio del Toro is in it too. Completely divorced from this topic, but really good time. If you want some sort of essence of this list, check that out. But True Romance, again, infinitely quotable. Emily and I have replicated scenes to a couple of these movies, and we did Drexel. It's movies like True Romance that make me wonder what other films would be like in other directors' hands. Quentin Tarantino written films in other directors' hands. You could tell the writing is distinctly Tarantino, if only for a certain N-word. That standoff, the eggplant standoff, is tense. It's awesome. It's well made. I don't know how Tarantino would have set that up, but you can definitely tell that it was put together differently. But it still has that Tarantino, that intensity, that gleam to it. And it still has a lot of quotable stuff that's still quite funny. The fact that I have True Romance as number 6 on a 31, this is very hard. Number 5, The Departed, yet another Boston movie. Martin Scorsese does Infernal Affairs, but Boston. And it also features Leonardo DiCaprio and just a slew of others. So I made a reference to Chinatown, but we get Jack Nicholson at least in one film. As much as I enjoy Infernal Affairs, The Departed, fucking brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, I guess it's pretty safe to say to not get too attached to any character in this movie because, man, it goes for it. This is kind of the first time where I've seen a movie that really no one is safe. And, that's awesome. To see a Scorsese movie like in a slightly different environment was fascinating. I would say that he probably deserved an Oscar a time or two before this movie, but certainly including this movie. Number 4, Casino. Yeah, we're pretty Scorsese heavy here in the top half. in case you haven't figured it out,
Me.
of the Italian mob shit, I certainly prefer Scorsese's work to the trilogy. Casino is, I don't know, the spiritual sequel to Goodfellas. And if anything, if you enjoyed Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas, oh man, his character gets to go off in Casino. Even though technically they're not sequels, Joe Pesci is essentially playing his character from Goodfellas with the volume turned up. It's way more gory. It's way more violent. The language is peaked. I think there was a point where this had the most F words in it. As much as I love so many different things of what Scorsese does in every aspect of filmmaking, his Rembrandt lighting and focus was quite compelling. And I think it's fascinating that he used it so much in this film, yet never really stuck to it to this regard. Yet again, another movie that is infinitely quotable. It's hard to explain. At this point, all of these movies are essentially tied. A really thin sliver separates a bunch of these movies. And there's not much to say about these great films. These are all-time great films for me. A quick note that I don't think I've ever spoken about on the channel is Sharon Stone. There are moments where she just plays drugged out, and her demeanor is really interesting. I've never seen an actor quite perfect, unstable, yet also rather intoxicated well. And Sharon Stone, for whatever it's worth, I don't know, balanced that incredibly well. I think if you're looking for something funny, I'll use the term fast food again, something that you can get in and get out with, even though these movies are well over 2 hours. I think Casino is the quicker time as opposed to Goodfellas, or certainly The Irishman. I think The Irishman and Goodfellas are of one regard, and The Departed and Casino are of another. And I really can't put my finger on what that regard is. Number 3, Donnie Brasco, Forget About It. Hey, Donnie, what's Forget About It? This movie has always been high on my list. And the more I've learned about film, the more I've watched other films, and the more I've seen Al Pacino in things, the thing that I really get drawn to with this movie is the fact that Al Pacino's character is very similar to some people that I've come across in my life. In certain company, they'll make themselves seem bigger than they are. But in actuality, they're kind of pathetic. And I really enjoy characters that have this pathetic layer to them. Again, I bring up Philip Seymour Hoffman, John Cazale, we'll get to him in a second, and Al Pacino in Donnie Brasco. His character is a lot deeper than I think the surface level gives credit for. And every time I watch this movie, I'm more and more drawn to Al Pacino's performance and what they do with his character, Lefty. So it may be surprising to a lot of you, but forget about it. Number 2, Godfather Part 2. Yes, most people call it the greatest mob movie of all time. Most people call it the greatest movie of all time. I wouldn't argue with either of them. Got quotes, as half of these movies do. I agree. I did a scene with Dennis from the Blue Corner. We replicated the Fredo scene. I spoke about pathetic characters earlier. Fredo in this movie is a case study. Perhaps literally. If you want to study great acting and great actors, just look at John Cazale's 5 films, and then also look at what those films have in common as far as accolades are concerned. But Godfather Part 2, it's not my number 1, but it can be a number 1 in other lists. Brilliant movie. It's a lot harder to say things when the films are good. And number 1 is Goodfellas, which checks every single box for me. Something that I can watch at any moment and not really feel too invested. Or if I really want to pick at a movie and enjoy the ride and, think about cinematography and all this other junk, this filmmaking junk, this movie has it. If I just want to quote things from the movie, another movie that I've done a cover of, Emily and I did a tribute to this movie. There's a reason that these movies work so well. And obviously, it probably started with something it started with the films from the 30s, and it evolved to what the Godfather movies were, and then re-evolved to Goodfellas, and they worked. The 90s really popped off because of this movie, and for good reason. This is the platinum standard for me. This isn't a slight against the other movies or something like Godfather, Godfather 2. This goes down a bit easier. It's a bit more fun. Forgive the term. It's darkly funny, And it's still, I don't know how to explain like the ease of use for these movies, especially the Scorsese stuff versus something like Godfather. There's a time and a place for the Godfather movies, don't get me wrong. But I feel like Goodfellas always fits that time and place and then some. So that's it for me. I'm sure we're going to get into it on the debrief, so be sure and check that out whenever it happens. Where did I go wrong? Let me know down below. I'm curious. It's fascinating because this won't be the first time that we've had some tumult in these rankings, and I'm kind of fascinated. I have a bit of an idea where some people have some movies, and we're a little all over the place again. I don't think it'll be as dramatic as A Night of Comedy was, but who knows? I don't envy the math. This list is just mine, of course. Don't forget that there's other members of Autopstream and the guest Adam Does Movies also contributing this time. So I don't know where I am on the schedule, but check everyone else's videos out. Maybe I have it here or down below. Check us out on the debrief to see how the hell all this comes together. Special shout out and thank you to my patrons, my executive producers and producers. And again, if you wouldn't mind clicking the like, and if you're not subscribed, do so. If you think someone will look at this list and feel shame, share it with them and let them know to comment, because I don't feel confident enough about this at all. For Autopstream, I have been Charles, otherwise known as Sipo. Forget about it.
Sometimes it just means forget about it.
So I made a reference to China. Oh, fuck you.